It's always good, like on a Saturday evening, try to.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order, get the show started. First item on our agenda is a public hearing. First, I want to say welcome everyone here. It's a beautiful day to be here in Jonesborough, so appreciate everybody attending. First item on that public hearing is an ordinance to de-annex a certain tract of land located along East Main Street. Something we discussed at our last meeting. Is anyone here to speak to that? All right, very good. Next item on the public hearing is an ordinance for the digitized matching of the retail liquor store overlay zone, Subdistrict 1 and Subdistrict 2. Is anyone here to speak to that? Okay, very good. Last item on the public hearing is an ordinance to amend Chapter 5 parking of the Jonesborough Municipal Code. Anyone here to speak to that? All right, very good. All right, we'll close that public hearing and move into our regular meeting. We'll have our opening prayer by Vice Mayor Dixon.
Let us all pray. Dear God, we thank you for this another day that you have allowed us to see. And God, that statement is not a flippant statement when we think about the condition of the world in which we live. God, people are dealing with all kinds of calamity and catastrophe, and you've blessed us richly to get up and to get about and to move and to have our being. And God, we are grateful people because of your wonderful blessings. And we appreciate you for all that you've done. We appreciate you for this country in which we live. We appreciate you for the freedoms that we have. God, we are truly grateful people. We thank you for this community in which we live, and we thank you for the people that comprise this community, new and folks that have been here for generations. God, we thank you for the spirit of community that exists in this kingdom. We pray, God, your continued blessings upon us all. God, we ask that you guide this meeting tonight in our deliberations. Keep this board and keep our minds and our deliberations, God, in the right way, that we can do good work for the town. Bless the town staff and the work that they're doing, God. We just pray your continued blessings on this community. We ask it all, Lord, in your name. In Jesus we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Adam. Rudy, do you have to leave the pledge tonight? All right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good, thank you. All right, Mr. Recorder, roll call, please.
Alderman Causey?
Here.
Alderman Calamine? Not here. Yeah. Alderman Dixon? Here. Oh, Alderman Calvin, sorry.
Here.
Look at my notes, thank you, Steve.
All right, we're all here, and we'll move in to our consent agenda. Several little staff reports in there, some personnel appointments, and a couple of resignations. Raymond Yoakley's been a very, very valuable member of our town for 12 years, and he's going to be retiring. He's a mainstay around here at Town Hall. It's a great addition to our town, so more big shoes to fill, but we'll do that. Alderman, is anything in the consent agenda you want to have pulled out and discussed? All right, if not, I'll take a motion to approve. Motion to approve from Alderman Dixon.
Second.
A second from Alderman Callahan. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Dixon? Aye. Alderman Callahan?
Aye.
Alderman Causey?
Very good. And if you notice, it was really hard when we talked about that for me not to look that way. The last meeting I looked that way as soon as I said that, and Virginia's, now she's got me gun shy.
It's because I try to keep them straight.
And she does a great job at that. She does a great job. All right, now we move into our agenda with our financial report. And Alderman, you got any discussion about that? Something I always like talking about during mayor's comments, so I'll talk now. I know appreciate staff always putting this report together for us, but we always talk about sales tax collections, and Jonesborough had record revenue collections for December 2021. We're usually a few months behind, but December of 2021 was a record for the town of Jonesborough, and it wasn't even close. It was almost $34,000, and really for the year, our collections are up over 12% over last year. So appreciate you shopping, and Jonesboro's got a vibrant business community, and it's getting better and better. And shoot, I think we could even talk about building permits are about double what they were this time last year, and they're pretty dang good last year too. So a lot of great things happening here in Jonesborough. So, Alderman, for any other comments? If not, I'll take a motion. So moved. Motion to approve from Alderman Callahan.
Second.
Second from Alderman Causey. Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Callahan?
Aye.
Alderman Causey?
Aye.
Alderman Dixon?
Aye.
Motion carried. Now we'll move into communications from the mayor, and I'll try to scoot through some of these things pretty quick. One, Glenn and I had this conversation last week. Glenn, when that traffic committee gets together, and we put together a traffic committee with really a bunch of impressive people, so we think we can get some things done, and we need to get things done with traffic in Jonesborough, because with growth comes more traffic, and we've got some things we need to do. One thing I'd like to make sure we talk about is, New Hope Road coming out onto 11E. It's a really dangerous intersection where you got to turn right and U-turn to kind of get back on 11E and go towards Johnson City. It's just a dangerous turn. Traffic coming out of Rocky Hollows almost dead on with traffic coming from New Hope Road. And I expressed some ideas there to Glenn about that. And, one was utilizing Conley Road or Otis Lane to kind of get Rocky Hollow traffic over to Lebanon a little bit safer, but we'd have to have the state cooperate on that. So if we can make sure traffic committee addresses that intersection down there the next meeting or two, it'd be nice. And Herman Jenkins called me at lunch there at Main Street Cafe and talked to me about something about the International Storytelling Center. He was talking about the steeple up there where it was designed to have a chandelier or a light or something up there, and I guess there's nothing up there now. He brought the idea up of putting some type of light up there that could change with the seasons. So we might want to bounce that around with our tourism and marketing staff and see if there's any validity to that. I think it sounds pretty good. If there's room up there to put something and improve the looks of that structure, it'd be nice. Appreciate Craig's write-up about what's going on down there at Persimmon Ridge Park. We had over 340 kids sign up for baseball down there again, so that's great. Baseball, softball, and Craig and the street farmers down there doing some work, so appreciate their effort improving that facility. We talked about our building permits, and we're at 57 building permits just in the first 2 months of the year, and that's versus 28 last year, which is a great year. So 57 building permits, so better get that traffic solved. All right, I get to present Employee of the Month, and we've got a good one there. Amber Crumley to come to the front. I don't think she expected it. I'll let you hold that. It's going to be yours to hang in your office. I would like to nominate the County of Jonesborough Business Center and Facility Maintenance Manager, Amber Crumley, for Employee of the Month. Amber has worked for the County of Jonesborough for 14 years and is a truly dedicated employee. Her drive to excel at whatever task she has in is inspiring to everyone around her. She is always more than willing to jump in, and this is what makes her an outstanding employee. The gift shop within this visitor center, I go in there quite often. It really has elevated really nice in there. The Old County Morgan has seen much success. We commonly receive positive business and residents' comments, as well as the record-breaking days in the city. The emphasis on nearly all the items being locally made trickles down to staff at Amber has made that an important goal. She has empowered the hosting in a number of ways, curating excitement for staff and a welcoming environment for the city. During the fall and winter, the town had an events coordinator vacant. Amber helped fill that gap by jumping in on a number of events. Two in particular were the Jack-o'-lantern drive-thru and a Halloween pumpkin happening. We had around 18 activities taking place for our Halloween celebration. This is due to Amber taking the lead on that event. Keep it in mind, she still had her regular duties to complete as well. Each year, the town makes around 300,000 ticket sales. Amber oversees every aspect of this process, from coordination with the group hosting the event to conducting the financial closeout report. She is the individual who inputs each and every ticket that is sold, trains the host at the visitor center how to utilize the system, as well as troubleshoot. She also oversees rentals at the visitor center, Mill Spring Park, the Kennedy Center, and the Chuck E. Cheese hosting center. Amber is a highly talented employee, very valuable to the town for numerous reasons. She always does her job to the best of her ability and has a positive attitude. Through working alongside her, I have seen and experienced her strong work ethic, her joy to do her job well, her willingness to help others. Amber is the type of employee you will work with. And they will. Key people, I think, whenever we're thinking about planning something or have ideas, we always count up to you and Camille and the staff, and we certainly appreciate everything you do for the town. Anything you'd like to say?
No, I'm surprised, first off, but it's not just me, definitely the visitors. All of our hosts
we have a presentation from the Millennial Attitudes of the Region. We got, folks want to come up for that, please? Yes. Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. So our presentation is where have all the young'uns gone? Which seems to be the question that so many people are asking lately. That question, of course, isn't universal. We know that there are plenty of young people that are left here in Upper East Tennessee. And so let's go to the next slide if we can. It's okay. So, in speaking about the presentation, we interviewed, surveyed really, folks, variety of ages, millennials really, who had graduated from high schools across Upper East Tennessee. It's that one right there, Jonesborough. There we go. And we'll just click right along through there. Yeah, there we go. So there's where our respondents came from. You can see Daniel Boone High School, University High School, and then a variety of others. Unicoi County, where I'm from, where I graduated from. We can go to the next couple of slides. So these folks who have graduated, if we don't plug that brain drain, what does the future of Upper East Tennessee look like? So these are the 8 communities that were really represented among that survey. So next slide, please. I want to tell you a cautionary tale first. So these are photos of West Virginia, McDowell County specifically. Has anybody heard of McDowell County? So it's in southern West Virginia. We can go to the next slide. McDowell County had over 100,000 people in the 1930s. Next slide. You can see they're really, really busy. It was the hub of the coal mining industry in West Virginia at that time. Next slide. That's McDowell County today. About 20,000 people live there now. They did not do a good job at retaining folks. The air just sort of went out of that balloon, and it was not an economy built upon sustainability. So, sustainability population-wise, I should say. Let's go to the next slide. So, regionally, we think that it's time to shift gears. From remembering all those good things that we know about, so J. Fred Johnson's in downtown Kingsport. Next slide, that's downtown Bristol, I think. That's downtown Johnson City in the 60s. To doing. So we have to go from remembering to doing. And these are all things that are happening right now. So Rocky Fork, using our outdoor resources, our TCAT, meeting with our development district friends, and all kinds of outdoor events, and our small businesses as well. So next slide. In this survey, we didn't so much care about why people left. We already know that they're gone. But we wanted to know why people stayed. So we found 4 main themes: family, career, a spouse, and finances. So either folks had an anchor by one of those reasons. So let's go to the next slide. So we wanted to look at when participants graduated. Here you can see the most recent graduates would have been from 19 to 14. Then from 08 to 13. 02 to 07, I'm in that group. And then pre-02, so those folks that graduated right at the turn of the century. We're about 90%. So we wanted to know where our participants went to college. We sort of thought maybe they were mostly local folks. but we were surprised. So we had actually a really broad range. So some were within 100 miles. Like I said, we thought that was going to be the majority, but actually, if we'll go to the next slide, within 100 miles, we had folks who went to Carson Newman, ETSU, King College, Tusculum College, Walter State. Next slide, please. And then within 250 miles, you can see a variety of schools there. And then over 250 miles, if we go to the next slide, you can see we went all the way to California State, Washington University, University of Michigan. So a great variety of schools represented there. Let's go to the next slide. We wanted to look at what areas of study we were losing, because we know in our region we have some big anchor businesses. So specifically, we wanted to remember Tennessee Eastman, Ballad Health, those kinds of businesses. And you can see there STEM was 22%, business education was 35%, social sciences 11%, and medical was 13%. That's just where they were studying. Let's go to the next slide. The career sectors themselves, you can see business was 33%. I know these are small. Healthcare is 19%, and STEM was 13%. So moving on to the next slide. Upon graduation, these are for folks who did depart the region. Upon graduation, 59% considered staying. Let's go on. But 50% would not consider returning, 41% would consider, and 6% may consider that. So what are we missing? There's a variety of things. Diversity was the number one area that we have got to work on. So that's diversity of thought, diversity of folks around us. We just really lack diversity in Upper East Tennessee. Also, that their field wasn't prevalent. So those specific biotechnology, engineering, technology, and then third places. If you don't know what a third place is, so your house is your first place, your work is your second place, and then a third place is that place that you might go to meet friends, to maybe do business in a place other than your office, or just hang out, So, moving on to the next slide, we're losing 59% female, 41% male, and 77% white, but overwhelmingly 17% black, which is way more than the area composition. So we're losing more people of color than actually live here as a percentage. So that actually goes to lessen our composition of diversity. So I know you've heard all this before. What are you supposed to do about it? I would encourage you to join me working together to keep our grads here. We can do that by making our communities more welcoming to everyone, which Jonesborough is such a welcoming place. We're appreciative of that. And then finding common ground in our economic development efforts as we work together to attract businesses that are sustainable. And so time for discussion to talk about the presentation at all, if you have questions for me. Good.
What year was the study, or when did it start and when did it end?
So it was all done in 2021.
So we could say it's pandemic time.
It was all done during the pandemic, yeah.
We do have a very strong influx of people that are from here.
Absolutely.
So I understand. Would you tell them just a little bit about what Irwin did, or some of that more the young professional efforts that are going on, which is millennial kind of concentration?
Sure. So 6 years ago, I guess, a young professionals organization was formed in Irwin to really work alongside economic development efforts and chamber efforts to help young people find a place to get plugged in. Again, that third place. That organization, RISE, has put on over 200 events in downtown Irwin. Again, Jonesborough has such a phenomenal infrastructure already. that would be a great add-on, I think, to try to get young people plugged in downtown.
I know we do have, a lot of different walks of life, but I think the other interesting thing that you were talking about was how do we retain or bring people back.
Absolutely.
I know that's I'm not saying a hard sell, but that's, I guess, kind of like diverse, looking at diversity, it's intentional, intentionally continue to look at how do we grow that, and also the retaining the folks or bringing them back to their roots.
Always a challenge.
People are probably looking at me. They can't hear me.
Yep.
The back row can't hear me. I will speak up next time.
Tyler, I think one of the things I really appreciate about this presentation is that the focus on quality of life. And it seems like when we talk about economic development, quality of life should be a key component of that strategy. And I think that with the new school, the Jackson, Arts as Economic Development, we've made these investments in quality of life. And so it's appropriate to think about how do we maintain community, how do we continue to do things that's cutting edge and innovative. And so I really appreciate you sharing this information.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, to see that number 3 of I guess the third most important thing in order to attract people back is just things to do. You hear that a lot, and that's something Johnson City I know is trying to do through their parks, the programs up there. That's one thing I think that the town of Jonesborough has improved in the last many years is really the type of events that we have here in Jonesborough. They're attracting really a diverse crowd. Our downtown at dusk is something that's attracting a younger crowd to Jonesborough that we might not have had 5 or 10 years ago. So I think if we can keep making those type of improvements and then partner with Bright Ridge, I think that is going to allow people to live here and work from home and keep this place a great place to live. Will hopefully attract them back.
Most certainly.
So I appreciate that, Tyler. Anything for you folks? Good. All right, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Thanks, Tyler.
We got anybody here for the Arbor Day celebration? I'll read this proclamation here for our Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting, heating, and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-saving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the town of Jonesborough has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices. Now, therefore, I, Chuck Vest, Mayor of the town of Jonesborough, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2022 as the Arbor Day celebration at 11 a.m. at the new Jonesborough K-8 school site. We're planting a lot of trees out there right now. As the kickoff ceremony for Arbor Day in the town of Jonesborough. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day, to support the efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and to join us at the town's tree planting ceremony. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Thank you for that. And now we have an Earth Day proclamation. Merritt Moore, are you here for that? Yes. You want to come to the front? Well, right, Alderman, that's all I've got. Anything from you folks tonight? Stephen? All right, now we'll move into town attorney comments. Jim, you got anything?
Only one thing to bring your attention to this evening, and that is that later in your meeting you'll take up the parking ordinance. And I did want to direct your attention to the court fines that you have. You already have that set up for illegal parking at $20 for the fine.
Okay.
Unless you want to change that, leave that ordinance.
Very good. Thanks, Jim. All right, now we got citizens' comments. As you can see, we've got a fancy clock here now that Vice Mayor Dixon's in charge of. I don't want that responsibility. Now, we might give that to Donna or somebody, but if anybody has anything they want to address with the town tonight. All right, Ruth, just please give us your name and address for the record.
I'm Ruth Verhage, 601 West Main Street. You all got a copy of this. And what I want to bring your attention to is that Paws and Blue is going to have their second annual barbecue dinner on April 2nd. And I've increased the number of plates that I've ordered. So hopefully our mayor won't not be able to get
I got
it
there's
this
no
year.
food left.
We're going to have to-go orders from 5 to 6:30, and then 6 to whenever will be sit-down service. And it'll be at the McKinney Center, hopefully, on April 2nd. The costs are the same this year as they were last year. And our employee of the month is going to take care of ticket sales.
Very good. Well, you're in good hands.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for all you do for our town. All right, anyone else? Marcy.
Marcy Hawley, Jonesborough, lot number 1. I noticed on the agenda that the requests for the outdoor permits are going to be discussed tonight. And I want you to know it's very nice having outdoor seating in the town as long as the facility, the establishment, follows the rules. And in any approval of any individual business, please consider that they follow the rules that you all put in place. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you. Yep. Well, we'll see.
Right. The first one is.
Name and address for the record, please.
Oh, yes, I do apologize. Brian Mills, out of 232 East Main Street. The first one, Susan Fowler, you all know, she brought to your attention about the traffic a few times, and I was here back in November. And she mentioned that there would be a traffic committee, which I think you alluded to. And I think it'd be really useful to know, and if they don't have any proposals at this time, I know it's a complicated issue and they're new to it, perhaps on some level, at least the committee. Is it possible to know what those proposals may be before the 23rd? And again, if there are no proposals, that's fine, but I'm assuming there might be.
They should put together an agenda. Is it what area you addressing? You say a proposal for what particular intersection?
Well, she brought it up that there will be proposals brought to everybody's attention on the 23rd at the traffic committee meeting. I might be wrong. I'm just reiterating more or less what she wrote in the email to me. Is that correct on the 20th? I mean, is this information correct?
We're not supposed to get into a debate back and forth, but I do think we got several things that's been brought up in the past that we've got on the agenda for the traffic committee to address. And as you said, some of them are, the Boone Street, Main Street intersection there where the corner cup is. It's complicated to try to see how we can, improve that intersection, but that's under discussion.
I got that. So
Yep.
my basic question, I don't want to necessarily back and forth either, but of those proposals for that committee meeting, can at least we get a sense of what those proposals may be?
We
lovely. And I have this in my bed and breakfast. And we really appreciate this because what it does is it shows off the town of Jonesborough as to, what a lovely place it is. And within this, they talk about all these great places to stay. And I've talked about Martin Lawley there, who, all her fault that I got into, right? And we're blaming on her. But I got into 2014-15. I got, 34 seconds left. That's going to be tricky to pull off. So 2014, I got into it. And in order to do that, you probably know all the hoops that one has to go through. I mean, I know Stephen had a business. He knows the hoops that you've got to go through to get your business license, etc. And every time I talk to Stephen, he's very happy to tell me, which is great to hear, how he does on the sales taxes, so that I can figure out how much he grosses. So we jump through all these hoops, and we try to be good corporate citizens here. And yes or no? Because otherwise, I don't want to waste.
All right,
my
you got
time.
30 seconds.
A little bit longer than that. It's an important point.
Okay.
And I show the respect to listen to you all, and there's no time for you lot. So let's give me a little bit more time, all right? So the bottom line is the bed and breakfasts that have existed here and continue. I believe. Tell me if I'm wrong. That you think it's a value to the community, all right? And we can get into all why it's a value to the community. On the same token, and I had to throw in Stephen's idea, how would you like it? You don't have to answer this, but it's not a rhetorical question. If you put all your effort in, you pay your sales tax, you do all the right things, there's lots of things that you have to do other than just paying the quarterly sales tax, and you find out there are like 20 other businesses out there that are not registered, making their liquor in a bloody bathtub, hypothetically, right? Not a level playing field. I mean, it doesn't exist probably. Not a level playing field. So you know where I'm coming to on this. It's again the perennial question. I've been asking about this for a few years now, and I keep going, no, we don't know. We don't know when I go and pay the sales tax. And I wonder why you don't know. Is it because they're not regulated? My guess is they're not. So you could do a Google search. Anybody wanting to come and stay here, right? You Google search, and they can find on Expedia, Booking.com, Airbnb, they can find short let places to stay, which is what I offer, all right? I'm not a big hotel like Eureka or what have you. And they do not probably collect taxes, because if they did, you lot would know about it. And there would be a list, and we all know they got their business license. So why do they operate by rules that are different to what we operate? It's not a level playing field. If you want in a few years to have other brick and mortar establishments like mine and other bed and breakfast in your nice brochure, if you want this to be part of your community, you need to protect this. I'm not going after them and saying you can't do your business, right? Yeah. But basically, you know the story. You look into other communities, they're putting everybody out of business. I mean, I don't know whether Mark, I didn't really, I do would appreciate it as a point of view on this to bring it up. But we can't operate. And it's not a level playing field. Yeah. Is that fair? And what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. I know there's been some discussion about that with new Airbnbs and stuff, popping up everywhere. And how do you, how do you regulate that or tap into it or track it? So that's something, we certainly want to do. So it's.
Well, I brought that up in November, and we're back here now. And so my question to you at the end of the day is that, can we, instead of just going something we'll look into, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't really want to hear that. I want to know who do I need to speak to so we can see you, and are you going to take this seriously?
I've taken it seriously.
You have? Great. So I can speak to you and find out how seriously you take it.
Absolutely. Just had a conversation about it 2 o'clock today.
That's lovely. It's serendipity, right?
Mm-hmm, it is serendipity.
Thank you,
and
Brian.
thank you for letting me go over the time, and I appreciate you taking
just
this
call
so
me.
seriously.
We'll sit down.
We'll sit down and see where we're going with this. Thank you again for your service.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you all. We'll move into some old business. First item on that agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of an outdoor use permit renewal application. Alderman, any comments or questions about that? If not, I'll take a motion. Got a motion to approve from Alderman Callahan.
Second.
Second from Alderman Causey. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Callahan.
Yes.
Crosby.
Yes.
All right, that's the outdoor use permit for Texas Burrito. Some great little establishment. I tend to eat there too much, about every week. But great food. Next item, discussion and possible action concerning second and final reading of an ordinance to de-annex a certain tract of land located along East Main Street. We talked about that before. This is second reading. Alderman, any new discussion on that? A motion to approve from Alderman Dixon. Glenn, you wanna
Oh,
add
that's
something?
I just wanted to let Mr. Lowe know that board looks like they're going to adopt the annexation. Then the zoning of the property, I've made a recommendation for it to go back to A1. That was the original zoning district. And that'll go to the our planning commission. And then that goes to the Washington County Commission. And they vote on that. Jonesborough Planning Commission will hear it tomorrow.
That'll be here.
It's in our planning region, so Jonesborough will hear the rezoning and they'll make the recommendation to the county commission. Sounds like a lot of stuff, but just call me if I need to explain it. I just don't want you to leave here and yeah.
All right, we got a motion from Alderman Dixon. Second from Alderman Callahan. Any discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Callahan.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Even though that property will be outside of our city limits, that's still in our jurisdiction for our planning commission. We'll make that happen. Next item is discussion and possible action concerning second and final reading of an ordinance for digitized mapping of the retail store overlay zone, Sub-District 1 and Sub-District 2. Just digitizing that. Alderman, any discussion? If not, I'll take a motion. Motion to approve from Alderman Causey. Second from Alderman Callahan. Discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Appreciate staff working on that. Next item is discussion and possible action concerning second and final reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 5 parking of the Jonesborough Municipal Code. I think Jim addressed one little issue there, but certainly something we think will enhance downtown area and parking in general. Alderman, any comments? None, I'll take a motion to approve. So moved. Motion to approve from Alderman Callahan. Second from Alderman Dixon. Any discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Callahan.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Motion carried. That took care of our old business. And Alderman, if it's okay, if anybody's got any objections to this, you can let me know. I'd like to move agenda items F and G, which is about our events. If we can move those first in line on this new business. Anybody got any objection to that? Yes. All right. Give you a second to pull that out.
The first one is rabbits. Wasn't very funny.
Got 6 of them in here. Staying busy. All right, I think I've got them all. First one, 7F, discussion and possible action concerning approval of town-sponsored special event for 2022. We have the Easter Extravaganza, which is always a great thing, Jonesborough Days, which we love, and Brews and Tunes, which is great as well. So, Alderman, any comments about those events?
The only comment I had is on Brews and Tunes. I think that we need to make sure that it at least breaks even because it's already been fed going into it. I discussed this with Mr. Rosenhoff, and
Okay.
he's assured me, so I'm fine with it.
All right. Any other comments? I'll take a motion to approve those 3 events.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Alderman Callahan,
Second.
second from Alderman Causey. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Callahan?
Aye.
Alderman Causey?
Aye.
Alderman Dixon?
Aye.
Alright. Motion carried. Kind of thinking about that Bruising Tunes. To increase more revenue, is that through sponsorships or passing the hat or something like that? Is that how we need to do it? Okay. Any of the vendors selling food or drinks, is there any profit sharing in there? Is that all just what about the beverage? Anything there? Is there any sharing of that? Okay. Yep. Yep, very good. All right. Appreciate that. All right. Next item is discussion and possible action concerning approval of special event request applications. We got Feroz Car Club. That's by Tennessee Hills Distillery. David Crockett High School Senior Class of 2022. And the 2022 Annual Garden Gala. Alderman, if you got any comments or questions about those? Stephen's going to step aside for this one.
Mayor, if I might, all the insurance and hold harmless agreements are in place, except there's no insurance for the Garden Gala that's included in the package, so that
That'll be
approved and
subject to them.
Subject to that being submitted and approved.
All right, subject to the Garden Gala getting their insurance, hold harmless policies, and proof of insurance to the town attorney.
Glad we can support these events and glad to see the school pride.
Absolutely, yeah. Started that last year, 2 years ago, and it's kind of growing. So.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no more discussion, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second.
Got a motion to approve from Alderman Causey, and got a second from Alderman Dixon. Call the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Causey?
Aye.
Alderman Dixon?
Aye.
Alderman Callahan?
Recused.
All right, motion carried. Now we'll move into discussion and possible action concerning the fiscal year 2020-2021 audit. And we've had many years of good, clean audits, and I think we might have one finding or something this time. But we had a little bit of change in that department, and I think this is something that really will be something we can easily address, and that's probably something the board can stay on top of too. And I think Glenn's talked to me some about it. So, Kevin, you want to get up and talk to us about the report?
Thank you, Mayor Vest, and I'll be brief with my comments so y'all can get along with the rest of your meeting. So I'm joined here tonight with Sina Rambo. She's a senior manager in our firm and also worked on the town's audit too. So this report, of course, is for the June 30th, 2021 audit. And just give you a brief overview of the timeline. We were here in August for some for some preliminary procedures, and then came back in November for the regular field work of the audit. And then Sina and I met with Glenn and Pat in January to kind of go over the drafts of the audit and any of our findings and recommendations. So kind of had that meeting in January, kind of go over things in depth. As the mayor just mentioned, we did note one finding in the report, but that's still really good. So you think of the amount of funds that pass through the town, state and federal funds, sales tax money, and all the different projects and programs you have going on. There was just one finding that we noted in the report. That was related to the budget for the general fund and the police drug fund, actual expenditures exceeding the budget. So I think that can be an easy fix, and we talked about that in our meeting in January. So we in addition to the audit report, there's two separate letters. One is that letter that has the finding and any other comments or recommendations, and the other letter is just the one for governance. So that kind of goes over our main responsibilities, if we had any significant disagreements or issues that come up during the audit. That's more of an informational one. As far as the audit report, I'll just tell you some certain pages that you might be interested in. Our opinion, which begins on page 1, 2, and 3, is a clean opinion. That's called an unmodified opinion. So that's the type of opinion you want. That essentially means at the end of the day, the financial statements are fairly presented and materially correct. So that's good news. I always point out that if you don't want to read all 180 pages of the report, the management's discussion and analysis on pages 4 through 12 gives you a good summary of the 21 results versus 2020 and kind of highlights any significant changes from one year to the next. I know you receive financial reports each month, but the audit report kind of consolidates some information on pages 14, 15, and 16 is kind of the government-wide presentation, and after that is individual funds and budget reports. In a governmental audit report, the note disclosures go on for about 60 or so pages. I do want to point out the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. That's on page 79. So during the 21 fiscal year, there was a total of $866,990 of federal grant funds that passed through the town. And because of that dollar amount, there's some additional compliance and internal control testing that we're required to do. So that's really important for your grant agencies when we do that compliance testing. We have to pick certain programs. So we picked the Rural Development Loan Program and then the U.S. Treasury CARES Act funds, since that was new and kind of a higher risk program. During our grant testing, though, good news is we did not have any findings related to compliance issues on the grants. So that's a very key takeaway from the report. We also have to issue an opinion on compliance, and that opinion on compliance was also an unmodified or a clean opinion. So that's another point of good news there on the compliance. So again, just the one finding related to the budget. I think there's some, I think that can be a fix going forward. I always like to point out that during our audit, it's not just dealing with the finance folks. We interact and ask questions for a lot of different people across the town. Some are here today. And I always like to tell the board that anytime we had a question or needed a report or information, everyone was very helpful and forthcoming and was able to provide us with the information. So I always like to point that out. Certainly appreciate you all and Glenn and Pat and the finance team for their help during the audit. Didn't want to take up a lot of your time, but I'll be happy to answer any of your questions if you have a question.
Anything?
Mayor, if I may just
Yeah.
add a comment. Very thankful for the cooperation of the team. Very helpful. Gathering you out. Leading on Kevin and the team. Really wanted to pass good work with us. So thankful to you for all the help.
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever been to one of these meetings without having you here. How long has it been that you've been serving the town?
23 years.
Wow. Yeah. He hasn't changed either. No, we appreciate the work you all do and cooperating with the town, and anything that we need to address, we'll certainly do it.
I just think it just says something about the fact that we get all these federal grants and how well they're managed. And I think it says something about the staff and the field, and also what we're able to do. Of course, I mean, it's very creative in Tennessee's own states.
Thank you all. Thank you, Pat and Lynn.
Thank you.
And Abby, she took part in this. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Anything, Jim, there we need to accept or anything?
No, sir.
All right, now another important thing is discussion and possible action concerning approval of the Organization Endowment Fund Agreement. And this is something that we've discussed with the Ernest McKinney Endowment on many occasions, and I think Jim's worked with several people on putting this together. And the recommendations to approve the Organization Endowment Fund Agreement between the East Tennessee Foundation and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the Jonesborough, Tennessee. Jim, is anything you want to touch on there?
There's not a lot of detail in this agreement, which you probably realize, but that will that will take place here at the local level. All right, money will come from them as they determine what the payout will be from the East Tennessee Foundation funds each year. And then you already have the scholarship fund set up. You've got the rules, if you will, for that committee to follow. And those, there may be some changes to those that the staff recommended and have been gone over with Commissioner McKinney, but I don't think you've formally taken the action on those. So there'll be some slight changes on that. But that'll all be done at the local level. So all this is setting up is the fund itself and the relationship with East Tennessee Foundation. And Alderman Dixon brought this to our attention, and I think it's just an incredible way to do this at virtually no cost to the town, but also a very strong partner to be partnering with. They've got a lot of good ideas and they're willing to help as far as raising money for the endowment.
This will kind of jumpstart the fundraising for that program. Alderman, any comments? Adam?
Very, very strong moment, I think, for our arts as economic development approach, and hopefully this will be a way to continue funding arts education in Jonesborough. I don't see this as being additional work on town staff, but I think that there's going to be a very particular type of investment, a very particular type of individual who has funds, and they'll want to put their funds in this endowment knowing that it's going to live for years and years and years down the road. And so this is going to be a way for us, I think, to take the proceeds from the interest from this endowment and then transfer it back over for arts education programming, transfer it back to the scholarship, and continue that program. This gives us a way, I believe, to recognize Mr. McKinney's legacy, and of course glad to see Mr. McKinney Jr. here, but gives us an opportunity to do that, but it also, again, allows us to further the arts, and again, I think we can say in Jonesborough that we're reaping the dividends from the arts. And so once the Jackson gets built and gets outfitted, and we've got the repertory theater, now the McKinney Center, it seems like to me that this is just fitting for the town. So I hope that my colleagues will support it. And there is one slight amendment. It is the Ernest, I believe, L. McKinney. So I think it's Ernest L. McKinney and not Ernest J. McKinney. Am I correct? Ernest L. McKinney.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Donna caught it.
Thank you.
All right. Alderman, anything else? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
Mayor, I move to approve.
Motion to approve from Alderman Dixon. Second from Alderman Causey. Any discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. So another great thing in Jonesborough. Appreciate the McKinney family for all they do. All right, next item on our agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of a change order for the Jackson Theater project. Looks like that's getting ready to kind of get going a little bit faster, and of course we need some power over there. We've got a little bit of power, but not enough power, and so that was something we got to get more to the Jackson. That's about $11,000 change order for that. So, Alderman, any discussion about this item?
I just have one question. I forgot this today when I was talking to Mr. Rosenhoff. The bid is for $11,200, but the change order is for $11,760. Can you come across?
There was if I may add a couple other notes, I think Mr. Ford and myself talked about this change order, not just what Alderman Causey just talked about. but I mean, comfortable to approve, but yes, the amount needs to be correct, or I know we need to move on it. It's also tied to the USDA loan. Do you want more information, or does anybody want any more information on the actual, like, the three-phase power and all that, or just
I think we probably
amount?
understand the reason
Okay,
for
okay.
the need is,
Would it
certain-
be
We can do approve it not to exceed
not to exceed
11,760,
11,760? But I would also ask, if that's the case, that we would also receive just a bit more detailed list of materials for staff to just do a final check over.
Figures should
Yeah.
match.
Yeah.
And yes.
If I may too, sir, I think, the initial bill went from Acorn Electric to GRC, and I'm thinking that's a fee that GRC, puts in there as the, construction contractor.
Yeah.
I had a call in today to Travis White, who is, ultimately responsible for that project, and I did not get a call back from him, but as Mr. Rosenhoff said, we can clear that up with him when I speak with him on the phone, but I'm wondering if that's not a percentage fee that they charge within the original contract that we have with them as the general contractor.
And that kind of makes sense in the amount there, $560. That kind of seems like that would calculate out correctly. But let's make the motion not to exceed $11,600 or $11,760, and let you guys make sure that's all we need to pay. Does that sound okay with you?
Why don't we make a motion to approve it subject to clarification?
Okay.
The reason that the amount is different. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sound good?
Can I just respond back to the board after I find that?
As long as you and Pat
Sure.
are okay with it.
Okay.
You know, as long as, $560 doesn't sound like much, but it is.
We'll confirm the actual amount, and
Okay.
I'll correspond with the board once I find
The
out.
11.2 is certainly the charge from Acorn. Like I said, the bill went from Acorn to GRC, and I feel like that's probably a percentage charged by the general contractor. But the 11.2 certainly is correct on the service that Acorn performed.
Virginia's got a motion to approve, subject to staff just validating the charge. Amount. Got a second from Alderman Callahan. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Virginia, for catching that. Next item is discussion and possible action concerning approval of the new police court and citation software. Alderman, you got any comments about that? Looks like that's something we certainly need. Any comments? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve from Alderman Dixon.
Second.
Got a second from Alderman Callahan. Any discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Aye.
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 All right, motion carried. Next item's utilizing our visitor center. Discussion and possible action concerning approval of the visitor center building use agreement with the Washington County Election Commission. So it's just something we want to make sure we got an agreement with them during elections. Got any questions, Alderman? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Alderman Causey.
Second.
Second from Alderman Callahan. Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of fencing calls for the ball field at Persimmon Ridge Park. Appreciate what Craig and I was doing down there, and background on that. Any discussion about that, Alderman? Just one question there. Jacob Sale, Craig, is that with Sale Fence Company? I know there's some comments down there that they were contacted him and kind of brought things into play.
Yes, he is with Cell Fence Company.
Okay.
Part of the issue with the ball field, as you're very well aware, always behind home plate, that fence is rather high. And we talked to some vendors who didn't even bother to even show up and give us a quote. I wasn't aware of Cell Fence Company personally, but one of the vendors that came down to look at the job said that fence is way too high. I don't have the equipment to do that. The only guy I can think of that has that equipment is Jacob Sale. So that's how we actually was able to make contact with him. And I had requested, Rachel had one other quote for fencing, but that was just the fencing in the roll. We would still have to take the old fence off, paint, reinstall it ourselves. And when I was discussing that with her, she indicated that the quote she had just for the fencing was higher than this quote for him to provide it plus install it. And so again, as you're well aware with the way things are right now, time is of the essence to get this approved so Mr. Sale can get the fencing installed.
Very good. And the work y'all done down there is looking really good. This is, I think Glenn's recommendation there is we got $100,000 coming to the town out of a settlement, and one of the thoughts in that settlement is things you want to do that's health related, and things that keeping kids active at the ballpark is certainly something that's really important to their physical and mental health. So certainly a needed call. $16,500. Alderman, any comments?
Those T-ballers, Mayor, are going to think they're playing at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, they will, won't they? Yeah. All right, appreciate that.
I just did want to, the money that from the settlement was already received. So
Very good.
we have it on hand.
Very good. All right, Alderman, no comments. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Alderman Causey, second from Alderman Callahan. Call for the vote. Mr. Recorder?
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is certainly needed. Discussion and possible action concerning approval of the flooring repairs at the McKinney Center. You said there, we got Paul's in Blue having a little fundraiser there, so we have some issues out of our stage, and sounds like we need to get that fixed. Any comments about this? Any questions, Alderman? If not, I'll take a motion to approve and moving that forward.
So,
Motion to approve from Alderman Callahan,
I'll second.
second from Alderman Dixon. Any discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion approved. Next item is discussion and possible action concerning approval of mowing bids for the 2022 season. Did have some discussion with Glenn about this and whether we continue to accept the bids the way we've done in the past, or move into just giving the bid to one contractor to do all the jobs, which has its pluses and has its drawbacks as well. And just to point out, let the aldermen who make these decisions, utilizing one contractor to do our mowing for the season. If I'm reading that right, Glenn, it's like $72,000, right?
That is split between the budget.
Yes.
Obviously, the mowing season goes to about October,
Right.
so part of that will go through June 30 in our current budget, and then
Yeah.
we'll set the budget again for the 22-23.
Just food for thought. This is kind of what just today, me reading through it again, and really, if you take the low bids that came in, our mowing cost would actually go down compared to last year. If we continue the way we've been doing it, it's roughly $1,450 a mowing cycle versus the $2,250 for having one contractor do it. And I've had kind of a little bit of a change of thought on that. Even that's the one that was recommended there. They do have quite a bit of business with Johnson City and other places, and sometimes that can be a challenge getting too much business. roughly there's a $25,000 difference in utilizing the bid process that we've done in the past, taking the lowest bids and assigning those to the different contractors, versus going with one. So my thought would be to continue with the way we've done in the past. And I know you're having to deal with 4 different contractors, but I think 25,000 is quite a bit. The reason why we started contracting that work out is just to have it done more efficiently, faster, and save a little bit of money in the long run. And I think we need to continue on that path. That's my thought. Alderman Causey looks like she has something to say. So
I've discussed this with Mr. Ford, and after reviewing it and knowing that I have a piece of property that they mow halfway, the mowers that we've had in the last few years did not do good jobs, and Matt's had to have them go back. I think if we have one person in charge of all the mowing, that it would make it much easier. If we have a problem, we don't have to call down here and say, hey, who does this one or who does that one? Even though I know it is a little more money, and I'm very cautious on our money, but I think in the long run that it would be much easier for Mr. Townsend, Mr. Ford, the staff with the billing. I think that the proposal that they have given us is a good proposal. I'd like to make a motion to go with Earth Fix for all of it.
okay, we got a motion to approve that recommendation. Alderman, any other discussion or? What's your thoughts?
I kind of see, I see both sides of the argument, and
Looks like last year, last cycle was roughly $49,000 cost to do our mowing. Take the low bids this year, it's $46,400. We continue on the same process. I'm not sure. Are we able to?
So the Mayor, I don't know if it's the last sheet, talks about below as if we were to pick by individual property bid and have multiple contractors based on basically $1,661 times 32 weeks came out to $53,152.
I'll check my math. I came to $1,450, but I think that was taking out the meadows, and maybe that's the difference.
Yeah.
I took out the meadows.
I mean, one of the things to look at is, I I agree. One contractor per se is easier on staff, easier for accounting, but also looking at the cost of gas prices, the issues that we know internally and externally on the labor force facing our area, whether or not we engaged in 4 to 5 different contracts. Would that work out? Not necessarily this year, but would it be a hard year? Would it be an easy year? Would it be an inconsistent year? The other thing to look at is it's based on 32 weeks. Everybody was based on 32 weeks. If they mowed 28 weeks, of course, they only get paid for what they mow. Sound like a commercial. So yeah, 2250. I would agree, and these are tough decisions. It's pivoting, or it's an alternative to the way we've been doing things. I'm comfortable with it, but I do recognize the other thought process of, call it cherry picking and doing individuals and coming up with one plan for the year.
Is it? It looks like there's 4 people in there that you've got highlighted as having low bids in various areas. It's almost like you could narrow that down to 3 fairly easy, but I don't know. Is it, Jim? Is it legal to kind of narrow it down to 2? And you might, in some ways, you'll be having some bids slightly higher than the one that maybe not necessarily the lowest, but
You've had them all bid both ways, so you can choose whether you go with a full contract or whether you do both bid for each one of the parties. And you've also made it clear in your specs that you may award certain areas that are next to an area to the same contractor despite the bid amount. And so you've got a lot of flexibility built into the bid specs.
If we were choosing to go with the low bids, and we've got one bid, say for the medians, that's $340, and yet another one that was $350, for the purpose of narrowing it down, or could we take the one at $350 to kind of eliminate, instead of having 4 contractors, getting it down to 3?
I don't know that there's anything in the specs that
Someone's taking the best bid versus the low bid.
well, you'd have to justify that as far as why you're going with that contractor rather than the other.
I think there's value in, less people to communicate with. Ideally, 4 to 5 is too many probably, but if you can narrow that down to 3, or 2, it's gonna come out cheaper than just going with 1, but it's up to the alderman. I just think there's probably a way to, 20 grand's 20 grand.
Mayor, if I could just add one more.
I've got a motion. Does anybody wanna make a second on the motion on the floor first? If not, we'll continue discussing, right?
If there's no second.
I just wanted to add one more thought too, again, with respect to the bids and some of the issues that especially Mr. Townsend has to deal with. On 2 or 3 occasions last year, one of these particular vendors that bid didn't even show up to do the mowing that they were under contract to mow. And not only did they not show up to do the mowing, they didn't call to let the town know that they were not doing the mowing. And so when Matt reached out to them, their comment was, well, we didn't have the employees to do it. So, he knows who that contractor is, and we've had those discussions last year, when they were under contract. So, I think they're experiencing some of the same problems others are with being able to hire people to work.
I would think if we had an issue out of one of these contractors last year, that's probably one you could narrow out and not take into consideration.
Yeah.
Adam, what do you think?
So I guess 2 points come to my mind. Out of all the contractors that bid, have we had a previous relationship with them? Are we familiar with them?
Yes.
Okay. And so, I'm assuming that a major part of our recommendation is out of the fact, I would think that quality is playing a role
Yes.
in our recommendation. So we really feel like that the quality of their work is the best. I'll second the motion. I'll go with that.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Stephen?
That's a tough decision to make, to be honest with you. I see value in both arguments, but to me, I like competition, to be honest with you. And I think if there's enough work to go around throughout the town, competition is good and we save the town money. So,
Okay. All right. Makes sense. Well, we might try something new and see how this goes. You can always revert back to the other the following year. We'll see how this goes with one contractor, if that's what we choose to do. We got a motion from Alderman Causey, a second from Alderman Dixon. Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Nate.
All right, motion carried. Appreciate the good discussion there. All right, next item on the agenda, discussion possible action concerning the Wetlands Water Park 2022 season in regards to staffing, compensation plan, and pricing. And it is it's a wild, wild world out there right now in terms of inflation and cost of goods, cost of employment. Private sector is hitting with it, and so it's going to hit us in wetlands. It's going to hit us other places too. So we need to make sure as a town that we're prepared for that. So you see the recommendations from staff. We got the motion to approve the proposed compensation plan for Wetlands Water Park. Seems in line. Approve the appointment of the preseason rehires. Approve the proposed increases in the passes as presented, which is good. And approve the increase in food prices for concessions as presented. Even Pals now is like $7 to go in there, and it used to be $5. So. Got a motion to approve from Alderman Callahan.
Second.
Second from Alderman Causey. Any discussion? Call for the vote, Mr. Recorder.
Alderman Callahan.
Aye.
Alderman Cost.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon. Aye.
All right, motion carried. And that's a wrap. Thank you all.